us here in studio to talk about that issue, as well as several other issues that are currently affecting Utah. So, Senator Mike Lee, thank you for being with us here today.
Happy to be here.
I want to talk about this federal funding for firefighting that's going on right now across the West. What really is the federal government's role in helping to fund these fires?
Here, the federal government's role is as landowner. It owns a lot of land, about 2/3 of the land in our state. And so when fires happen on federal property, the federal government's got an obligation, both to protect its own property and to protect the interests of adjacent landowners, to come in and make sure that the fire is dealt with in a responsible way and that it's put out and it doesn't present a risk to human life.
So they own the land. They've got some skin in the game, basically.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how important is it to be able to get this federal funding for the fight against these fires?
Well, of course, if the federal government's going to own this much land, it's got to make sure that it has enough money and enough resources available to deal with emergencies like these as they arise.
What's your role in all of this? I mean, can you ask people, can you ask the federal government, we need to get some money in here for these fires?
Well, sure. Now, what happens is that every year we appropriate and set aside some money to fight fires. I've got legislation right now that is designed to help prevent them by changing the way we manage our forests so that we don't have as much fuel building up. There's less to burn that way. We can save money in the long run by doing that. But every year we set aside some money to do that. Then as the fires arise, the Forest Service will allocate resources depending on the priority of the fire.
So really just making more preventative stance is really the goal in mind there, trying to stop it before it happens.
That's right. No one likes these fires. It's bad for everyone, and so we want to prevent them.
Okay, let me shift gears here now. Talking about Obamacare or the Affordable Health Care Act, why are you against it?
I'm against it because I've gotten thousands of phone calls, thousands of emails and letters from constituents throughout Utah who are saying, we've known for a long time that there were things about this law we didn't like. We didn't like that it was 2,700 pages long, that nobody had read it before passing it. But we now know that it's going to make our health care more expensive. Many of us are going to lose our doctors and our existing health plans. We also know now that it's unfair. It's been made unfair because the president said that individuals will have to comply, but the president has created a big carve-out for big business. That's not fair. So what I've been saying is that we ought not fund this. It was passed without a single Republican vote. Republicans who are now in Congress ought not contribute their vote to funding it.
Now, let's just say, for example, Republicans had their support behind this. Would you fight it if that were the case?
Well, I disagree with this law. So, you know, if one...
Inherently.
The law is going to make health care less affordable, and the law is being implemented in an unfair manner. It's not even being implemented as written. And so this is one of those pushes that was made necessary in part by the fact that the president himself, who got this thing passed through Congress, is unwilling to implement the law as written. And so that's really what started this push to defund Obamacare. That and the thousands of phone calls and emails and letters that I received from constituents throughout Utah.
Now, one of the things, you know, as people have watched about or kept up with this issue, they know that Republicans like yourself have tried to be able to push back against this time and time again and have been unsuccessful in it. What do you do now? I mean, obviously you still want to do that. How do you go about stopping Obamacare if you've been unsuccessful for dozens of times thus far?
The way we've gone about it is to convince the House of Representatives to pass a funding mechanism, one that keeps government operating, one that will fund everything else in government except Obamacare, and then we consider funding for Obamacare separately. It needs to stand on its own merits and not be attached to funding for, say, wildfires or for the armed services.
So choke it where the money comes in is basically the idea.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That's Congress's prerogative. One of its few powers that it jealously guards is its power of the purse.
Okay, and I know you're going to be here for some town hall meetings. We'll have more information on that online at abc4.com. But Senator Mike Lee, thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you.
Nadia, back to you.